All right, monitors off. And good morning. This is chapter 10. Ooh, we're almost done with this book. In chapter 10, it talks about positioning objects with AP divs. And on lesson number 1, we're going to talk about what exactly AP divs are and what do they actually do on your page. I'm going to create a new file here on Jordan's site. And I'll give it a background color. Something high contrast. So I have here a page that it has a blue background. AP div tags, I'm sorry, in chapter 3, I think it was. No, I'm sorry, it was maybe chapter 4 or 5 actually. You guys worked on CSS styles, and you created pages that, let me see, what was the CSS style page? Was this spa? Is this yep, that's a CSS style. Okay, so anyways, so you guys used CSS styles to create a page layout. And when you actually use the CSS style, the HTML tag for that was a div tag. And then it received a class name. And then you had all kinds of formatting controls according to that class. Because CSS formatting was based on a CSS style. So the CSS styles are all embedded in here, and that's how you control all of that, the sizes. Containers, content footer, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you use the canned style from file new, from template, from a CSS style template, and boom, you have a page. Now in chapter 10 is going to show you that you can also create what they call another type of div tags, which are AP divs. And AP stands for absolute positioning. It means that you go to the on the insert panel, you go to the layout category, and you can choose any of these guys, but the one that we're going to be using is the draw AP div. And if I click on that, the pointer becomes a crosshair, and I can now click and drag a AP div tag. You're going to see that this behaves very different than what you're used to. There's a little handlebar here. And if I go in the code view, I see that I have a div tag. It receives the default name of AP div1. And if I go in there, I can type inside of this container. Maybe this contrast is not too great because it's just too dark. I'm going to change to yellow. Okay, so I can type in here. I can click on this area here to select the whole AP div, and I can click and drag, and I can put it basically anywhere I want. Another thing that is interesting about AP div tags is that the page itself may have content. Okay, I'll type in a line of text, and here I go. I'm gonna go hit it, and what happens here is I went under it. So what's happening here is that, and I'm actually going to put a picture on it. I'm going to go to Common, put a picture, and I don't know. If I put a picture on this page, you're going to notice that this AP div tag, I can move it on top of any content that is on the page. And stays that way. When I have this selected, I can also give it a background color that is different. So this is really a window. It's like having a sheet of clear plastic with something on top of my page. And if I preview this on a browser, it doesn't matter what the size of the window is. The other elements on the page, they may shift because they are dynamic to the width of the page, the window, but the AP div tag does not. No matter what the size of the window is, the AP div tag never moves. Never moves in relation to the top left corner of the window and the top left corner of the AP div tag. Okay? So the idea here is that AP div tags are containers you can create using a div tag. They are absolutely positioned. They don't go anywhere. You can actually put images in here. You can put text in here. And I can also overlap AP div tags. Layout. I can draw another one on top of this one. Boom. And now actually fill this with a different color. So now I have two AP div tags on top of an HTML page background, and they're just different colors, and there's an order of stacking in here. I'm gonna save this page. I'm gonna go back to my page that I had it open, and I'll refresh this page, and now I have the two AP divs. What determines who's on top and who's on the bottom is determined by the Z index. And if you select the AP div tag, you're going to see on the property inspector something called the Z index alongside with the length. I think this is the top, left and top. Okay, left and top meaning the positioning of this exact point which positions the div tag. Okay, so this, when it says left, is saying that this point here is 240 pixels to the away from the left margin of the page, and then the top is 21 pixels from the bottom of the page. If I'm gonna bring this straight down, and you're gonna see that the left is not gonna change very much, but the top changes a lot. Okay, that's how you put the point of reference for the positioning of the div tag is the top left corner of this in relation to the top left side of the window. Okay, so anyways, let's go back to the Z index page. For this div tag here, which in name is APDiv2, I can name it whatever. I can name ASDF if I wanted to. But for ASDF here, Z index is 2. Let's compare that with the blue one that I created first, which is APDiv1. The Z index number is 1 in here. Now it looks at this point that the blue one is on top of the red one. I do not change Z index numbers. I'm going to save this page, go back to this, and I'll refresh it. This is still in the bottom, even though the blue one looks like it's on the top of the red. The document window in Dreamweaver is not going to be able to visually tell you, just by the looks, which AP div tag is on the top of what. That is determined by the Z index. Question for Julia. The smaller the Z index number means what? If this one, Julia, APDiv1 is in the top or the bottom here? What is the Z index number?
Oh, it makes it like go back more.
What?
You know what I mean? What's it?
The lower the Z index number,
Yeah.
the what?
The more like, I don't know how to explain it. It goes towards the bottom.
The closer to the bottom of the stack of the AP divs it is. Okay? So there's another, I think, I forget if I have a window here. AP elements, yeah. On AP elements panel, you can see a list of all the AP divs you have, and also their Z index number, which means that you can quickly just look at APDiv1 and say, oh, hey, the APDiv1 is on the bottom. Oh, this allows me, I think, no, it doesn't let me change the number, but it does, it should, yeah. It does allow me to change name. I can just double click on this, and it does allow me to change the AP div. So if I change APDiv1 to 2 and ASDF to 1, what happens, Julia?
It goes like more back if you change it.
Who's on the bottom now?
The ASDF.
Yes. I'll save this. We're going to confirm. Refresh. And boom. Okay. The last thing I wanted to show you, APDiv tags, they can behave just as any HTML tag. I can click make one. Inside of this, I could go to the common bar list arrow, click on a picture thing, and I'm going to put a picture inside of it. Okay? So now I have a picture inside of this APDiv tag, which is holding that picture. And look at this. This is interesting here. This is another example. Sorry, I'm stuffed up here. But in this case here, I want to make this APDiv a little bigger so you can see through. For this APDiv tag that has the picture of the boardwalk, I don't have a background. But say I put a background color of green. The picture is inside of it. The APDiv tag is actually bigger than the actual picture. Okay, they're transparent by default, so they could be invisible. And I'll save this. The z-index number for this guy here is going to be 3, which means there's going to be top of everybody, the two other APDivs. I'll refresh this page, and it shows up there. Look at what's happening here. This is interesting, right? The APDiv, the picture, even though the APDiv is going to expand in here anyways to show the whole picture, but really the APDiv is not wide enough for the whole picture. Okay, so you have to be careful with that. There's on the property inspector for every APDiv there is a, where is that at? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. There's the overflow thing. On the overflow for the APDiv, it controls how your APDiv tag behaves if the content that is inside of it is bigger than the window in itself. By default, there's nothing. If I click on scroll, it changes things here. It changes the APDiv width to what it really is. I'll save this. I'll switch to this. I'll refresh. You see in here, the APDiv just showed, even though the APDiv is just only this wide, it showed a picture that is wider. But then it caused this effect here, which is the background for the APDiv tag. I'll refresh this. Oh, it gave me scroll bars now. It didn't give me any scroll bars vertically because there is no content that is overset on the APDiv. But because there's content over here that I can't see, it gave me this horizontal scroll bar. And I'll click and scroll around. Okay, so using the overflow control on the property inspector, you should be able to control your div tag to do different things as well. Okay, the default is going to be empty, which means the div tag will show everything that is inside, but it won't expand beyond what the settings for width and height are. So the background color is going to get, as you saw before, is going to get a little messed up. Are there any questions about APDivs? All right, let's get to work.